I care about you, but I need something more. I think we should explore the possibility of an open relationship.
Black wife's husband asked for an open marriage. Next day, she's dating the Korean Mafia boss. The sound of shattering glass perfectly matched the state of my heart as I swept the remains of our anniversary champagne flute into the trash. 5 years. 5 goddamn years of marriage to Marcus. And this is what he gives me for our anniversary. A request for an open marriage. Not flowers. Not jewelry. Not even a card. Just his desire to sleep with other women while keeping me as his safety net. I scrubbed furiously at the kitchen counter. My hands raw from bleach and my eyes burning from tears I refused to shed anymore. 5 years of supporting his ungrateful ass through medical school. 5 years of putting my own dreams on hold. 5 years of pretending the light was still on in my eyes when he'd come home late smelling like hospital antiseptic and someone else's perfume. "It's not about you, Zara," he'd said last night, fork halfway to his mouth at the restaurant I'd saved up to take us to. "I just think we'd both benefit from some freedom to explore. We got married so young." Young? I was 23 when we got married. Old enough to work double shifts at the catering company to pay our rent while he studied. Old enough to silence the voice inside me that whispered I was destined for more than being Dr. Marcus Williams' supportive wife. Young enough to believe that love meant sacrifice. The worst part wasn't even the request. It was the casualness of it. Like he was asking to try a new restaurant, not destroy the foundation of our marriage. Like my feelings were an afterthought to his desires. If you've ever felt undervalued in a relationship, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That slow erosion of your self-worth until you're grateful for crumbs of attention. Until you're apologizing for taking up space in your own damn life. I slammed the cabinet shut with enough force to rattle the dishes inside. Marcus had left for his hospital shift before dawn. Coward that he is. Probably thought I just needed time to process his generous offer. That I'd eventually see the wisdom in his modern approach to marriage. What he didn't know was that something inside me had finally, irreversibly broken. That quiet, accommodating Zara who swallowed her dreams along with her protests had died somewhere between open marriage and the check arriving at our anniversary dinner. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine, my best friend since culinary school and the only person who had never stopped reminding me of who I was before Marcus. "How was the anniversary? Did he love your surprise?" My surprise. The cookbook proposal I'd been secretly working on for months. Louisiana Creole meets modern cuisine. My heritage reimagined through the lens of my training. The proposal I never even got to mention because Marcus was too busy destroying our marriage to notice the folder beside his plate. I didn't answer Jasmine. Couldn't find words that wouldn't dissolve into incoherent rage. Instead, I grabbed my keys and stormed out of our apartment. I needed air that wasn't saturated with the lingering scent of his cologne and my disappointment. I drove without destination, the Atlanta streets a blur through my tears, until I found myself outside Grady Memorial Hospital. I don't know what compelled me to park across the street. Some masochistic desire to torture myself further, perhaps. Or maybe some part of me needed visual confirmation of what my heart already knew. It didn't take long. Lunch hour. Marcus emerging through the sliding doors with a woman I recognized from his department photos. Dr. Sophia Chin. Tall, slim, accomplished. His hand on the small of her back. Her laughter at something he said. The intimate way they moved together, the choreography of lovers, not colleagues. And there it was. The truth I'd been avoiding for months, possibly years. The open marriage request wasn't about exploration or freedom. It was retroactive permission. Marcus wanted my blessing to continue what he was already doing. I sat frozen in my car, watching them walk to a nearby cafe. The pain I expected didn't come. Instead, something harder, colder crystallized in my chest. Clarity. And with it, a rage so pure it felt like power. My phone rang. Jasmine. I answered mechanically. "Last-minute catering emergency," she said without preamble. "High-profile gallery opening in Koreatown tonight. The original caterers bailed. I need your magic touch, Z." double our usual rate. Any other day, I might have declined, might have gone home to cry or confront Marcus. But today, with the image of his betrayal fresh in my mind, I needed something, anything that was just mine. Text me the details, I said, starting my car. I'll be there. Little did I know, saying yes to that catering job would change everything. The gallery was all sleek lines and strategic lighting, showcasing modern Korean art that probably cost more than my culinary school debt. I moved through the space with practiced invisibility, balancing trays of the Korean Creole fusion appetizers I'd created in my rage-fueled cooking frenzy hours earlier. Gochujang spiced shrimp remoulade, kimchi dirty rice arancini, Banshan-inspired bites with Louisiana soul. My anger had transformed into something beautiful on those plates, and I could see it in the surprised expressions of the guests as they tasted my food. For once, I wasn't just background noise in someone else's important event. Who created these? I overheard one woman asking the gallery owner. The flavor profile is extraordinary. The validation should have felt good. Would have once. But now it just echoed hollowly in the space where my confidence used to live before Marcus systematically dismantled it. Compliment by compliment, year after year. Too spicy, babe, he'd say about my family recipes. Maybe tone down the flavors for normal people when I cooked for his colleagues. You know I prefer simple food. Whenever I tried to reclaim my creativity, I was refilling the display when it happened, the collision that would redirect the course of my life. In my distraction, I turned without looking and slammed directly into what felt like a wall but was actually a man in an impeccably tailored suit. The tray tilted. Disaster loomed. But before a single piece could fall, strong hands steadied both me and the display with astonishing precision. I apologize, said a voice like aged bourbon, smooth, rich, with a hint of something dangerous. I wasn't watching my path. I looked up, prepared to offer the professional smile I'd perfected for entitled clients. The words died in my throat. He was Korean, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of face that artists would beg to sculpt, all perfect angles and quiet intensity. But it was his eyes that held me, dark, intelligent, and fixed on mine with an attention so complete it felt almost physical. He looked at me like I was the only person in the crowded gallery, like I mattered. The food, he said, gesturing to my tray. It's yours? Your creation. I nodded, finding my voice. Yes, Korean Creole fusion. Bold combination. His English was perfect, with just the faintest accent coloring the edges of his words. What inspired it? No one had asked me that. Not in years. Not even Jasmine, who knew me better than anyone. I'm Creole, I said. From Louisiana originally. I wanted to honor both cultures, the one hosting this event and the one that shaped my palate. He studied me with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable but somehow wasn't. You understand balance, he said finally. The tension between tradition and innovation. Between honoring roots while creating something new. That's rare. Before I could respond, two men in dark suits materialized beside him. Security, obviously, though they tried to blend in. One murmured something in Korean. The man's expression hardened momentarily, then returned to its composed state. I must attend to something, he said, but I would like to continue this conversation. Perhaps when your duties allow. I should have said no. Should have recognized the danger signs of the security detail, the deference shown by everyone who passed, the carefully controlled power evident in his every movement. But 5 years of suffocation in my marriage had left me desperate for air, for someone to see me, really see me, as more than an accessory or an afterthought. I finish at 11, I heard myself say. He nodded once. Until then. Only after he walked away did I overhear gallery staff whispering his name with reverence and fear. Jin Ho Park. The Jin Ho Park, owner of Park Enterprises, the multinational corporation that had fingers in everything from luxury hotels to tech startups. And, if rumors were true, the undisputed head of the Korean organized crime syndicate in Atlanta, a position he'd inherited from his father and expanded with ruthless efficiency. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt something I hadn't in years, curiosity, interest, the faint stirring of possibility. The rest of the night passed in a blur of service and surreptitious glances. I'd spot Jin-ho across the room, engaged in conversation with artists or collectors, but somehow always aware of me. Whenever our eyes met, he didn't look away, didn't pretend he hadn't been watching. It was the most honest interaction I'd had in years. By 11, the event was winding down. I packed my equipment, changed out of my catering blacks in the staff bathroom, and headed to my car, a 12-year-old Honda that Marcus had been promising to replace since he got his first attending physician paycheck. The engine made a grinding sound when I turned the key. Then nothing. I tried again. Nothing. Perfect, I muttered, letting my forehead rest against the steering wheel. Just perfect. A tap on my window startled me. Jin-ho Park stood beside my car, security hovering at a respectful distance. I rolled down the window, embarrassment heating my cheeks. "Car trouble?" he asked. Just the universe's way of reminding me that today wasn't bad enough. The words slipped out before I could filter them. Instead of being put off by my bitterness, he smiled, a small, genuine expression that transformed his serious face. "Perhaps it's the universe's way of ensuring our conversation continues," he said. "May I offer you a ride?" Every warning I'd ever received about strange men flooded my brain. But then again, what did I have to lose? My sham of a marriage? My stalled career? My dignity that Marcus had been chipping away at for years? "That depends," I said, surprising myself with my boldness. "Are you going to have me disappeared if I criticize your taste in art?" His laugh was unexpected, a rich, warm sound that seemed to surprise even him. "No disappearances tonight," he promised, opening my car door, though I reserve the right to defend my collection vigorously. As I gathered my purse, he pulled a business card from his jacket pocket. Not a standard card, this was heavy black cardstock with silver embossing. He wrote something on the back before handing it to me. "My private number," he said, "in case you need anything. Car trouble included." I took the card, our fingers brushing momentarily. "I'm Zara," I said, realizing I hadn't properly introduced myself. "Zara Williams." "I know," he replied simply. Of course he did. A man like Jin-ho Park would have had me thoroughly researched the moment I caught his attention. The thought should have been unsettling. Instead, I found it oddly reassuring after years of being overlooked by my own husband. His car was a sleek black Mercedes with tinted windows and a driver who appeared from nowhere to open doors for us. The interior smelled of expensive leather and subtle cologne. As we pulled away from the gallery, I realized I hadn't told him where I lived. "My address," I began. "Wherever you wish to go," he interrupted smoothly. "Home, a hotel, a friend's place. Your choice, Zara." The way he said my name with attention, with care, made something break loose inside me. 5 years of suppressed pain and rage bubbled up, and before I could stop myself, words poured out. "I found out today that my husband is cheating on me, after he asked for an open marriage last night. On our anniversary." I laughed, a harsh sound. 5 years of supporting him through medical school, and his gift to me is permission to sleep with other people while he continues fucking his colleague. I clamped my hand over my mouth, mortified. "I'm sorry. That was honest," Jin-ho finished for me. "No apology needed for honesty. It's refreshing." He studied me for a moment. "Your husband is a fool." "No," I said bitterly. "He's a successful doctor who traded up from the struggling chef who supported him to the polished surgeon who matches his new status." Jin-ho's expression hardened. "That is not trading up. That is abandoning gold for glass because it shines more obviously." The conviction in his voice caught me off guard. So did the anger on my behalf. Not pity, not awkward sympathy, but genuine indignation. "I should go home," I said quietly. "Figure out what I'm going to do next." "And what do you want to do next, Zara Williams?" The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? For so long, my wants had been secondary, reduced to background noise behind Marcus's needs and ambitions. "I want to breathe," I finally said. I want to remember who I was before I became someone's convenient wife. I want to cook food that makes people feel something without apologizing for the flavors. I want to be seen, he finished softly. Our eyes met in the dim light of the car's interior, and something electric passed between us. Recognition, understanding, possibility. Yes, I whispered. To be seen. He nodded once as if coming to a decision. Call me when you're ready for that. Not a moment before. The car stopped in front of my apartment building. Jinho didn't move to touch me, didn't press for more information, didn't try to take advantage of my vulnerable state. He simply handed me a card with the name of a mechanic. For your car, he said. Tell them I sent you. They'll take care of it. Thank you, I said, meaning it for more than just the recommendation. Good night, Zara Williams, he replied. I hope you find your breath again. I didn't sleep that night. How could I, with Marcus's side of the bed empty and Jinho Park's card burning a hole in my purse? I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying 5 years of marriage like a horror movie I couldn't turn off. How had I not seen it? The gradual erosion of my identity. The way Marcus's compliments had slowly transformed from, "You're amazing," to, "You're amazing for putting up with my schedule." The subtle suggestions that my culinary ambitions were cute hobbies rather than legitimate career goals. The constant comparisons to his colleagues' wives. Always polished, always appropriate, always less than what I could be if given room to grow. By dawn, something had crystallized inside me, hard, sharp, and unbreakable. I was done. Done shrinking. Done apologizing. Done pretending that love meant setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Marcus came home as I was making coffee, his expression carefully contrite. Babe, about last night, he started. I cut him off. How long have you been sleeping with Sophia? His shock was almost comical. What? I don't. Don't insult what's left of us by lying, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I saw you with her yesterday. I'm just wondering how long it's been going on. The calculation played out on his face, how much to admit, how to minimize the damage, how to maintain control of the narrative. It was a familiar expression, one I'd seen countless times when he'd come home late or canceled plans. It's not serious, he finally said. Just a thing that happened. That's why I thought an open arrangement might be good for us. Give us both some freedom while maintaining our partnership. Partnership, like a business arrangement. Maybe that's all it ever was to him. I want a divorce, I said quietly. He laughed, actually laughed, as if I'd told a particularly amusing joke. Don't be dramatic, Z. We can work through this. And there it was. The dismissal. The belittling. The absolute certainty that I would eventually fall back in line because I always had before. I picked up my phone and walked to our bedroom. His confidence faltered as he followed, watching me pull out a suitcase. What are you doing? Leaving, I said simply. I'll be back for the rest of my things later. Where are you going to go? His voice held more annoyance than concern. Your catering business barely covers your car payment. You need me. 5 years ago, those words would have shattered me. Even yesterday, they might have made me reconsider. But today, they just confirmed what I already knew. Marcus had never seen me. Not really. He'd seen what I could do for him, not who I was or who I could become. I didn't answer him. Didn't need to. Instead, I packed enough for a few days, called an Uber, and walked out of the apartment with Marcus still talking at my back, his words fading into white noise as the door closed behind me. In the Uber, I pulled out Jinho's card. The chemistry between us had been undeniable, but was I really ready to step into whatever complicated world surrounded him? Was I trading one bad situation for potentially worse? But then I remembered his words. Call me when you're ready for that. Not a moment before. He'd seen my pain and hadn't tried to exploit it. Had offered help without demanding anything in return. Had looked at me, really looked, and valued what he saw. My fingers hovered over my phone. I could go to Jasmine's, could get a hotel room, could figure this out on my own like the independent woman I'd once been. or I could take a chance on something completely unexpected. I dialed the number. Jinho answered on the second ring, his voice alert despite the early hour. Zara Williams. Not a question. A statement, as if he'd been expecting my call. I left him, I said without preamble. I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going, but I know I can't go back. A pause. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? I could go to my friend Jasmine's, but I hesitated. He knows to look for me there. I understand, he said. Where are you now? I gave the Uber driver's location. We were halfway to downtown. I'll send a car, Jinho said. Black Escalade. The driver's name is Min. He'll take you wherever you wish to go. If that includes my office, I'm available to talk. The lack of pressure, the offering of choices rather than demands, nearly undid me after years of subtle coercion disguised as concern. Thank you, I said, my voice smaller than I intended. Zara, Jinho said before hanging up. Breathing begins with a single exhale. Let go of what's suffocating you first. 20 minutes later, I was in the back of a pristine Escalade, being driven by a silent but respectful man to the Park Enterprises building in downtown Atlanta, a gleaming tower of glass and steel that seemed to reflect the sky itself. Min led me through a private entrance, bypassing security, and into an express elevator that required a fingerprint to operate. We ascended to the top floor in silence, my stomach dropping not from the speed but from the enormity of what I was doing. The elevator opened directly into a reception area where a poised Korean woman greeted me by name without checking any list. She led me through double doors into an office that stole my breath, spacious and minimalist, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline. Art that I recognized from the gallery hung on the walls, interspersed with traditional Korean pieces that somehow complemented rather than clashed with the modern works. Jinho stood as I entered, coming around his desk to greet me. In daylight, he was even more striking, his tailored charcoal suit a perfect complement to his athletic build, his face a study in controlled intensity. You came, he said simply. I'm not sure why, I admitted. This is crazy. I don't know you. You don't know me. I know enough, he countered, gesturing for me to sit on one of the sleek leather couches. I know you're talented. I know you're undervalued. I know you've reached your breaking point with a man who doesn't deserve you. He sat across from me, maintaining a respectful distance. What I don't know is what you want to happen next. The question caught me off guard. What did I want? For so long, my wants had been secondary, negligible, optional. To have someone center them so completely felt almost disorienting. I want to start over, I said finally. I want my own restaurant someday. Food that honors where I come from while creating something new. I want to stop apologizing for taking up space. Jinho nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. And personally, what do you want for yourself, beyond your career? I want. The words caught in my throat. I want someone to look at me the way you did last night, like I'm worth seeing. Something shifted in his expression, a softening around the eyes, a slight parting of lips, before he regained his composure. I can help you with your restaurant, he said carefully. I have properties, connections, resources that could make that happen. No strings attached. I raised an eyebrow. No strings? Why would you do that for someone you just met? Because talent deserves nurturing, he said simply. And because I recognize something in you that reminds me of myself before I embraced who I truly am. And who are you, Jinho Park? Really? He leaned forward slightly, his gaze intensifying. I am a businessman with legitimate enterprises throughout this city and beyond. I am also the head of an organization that operates by different rules than the ones you're accustomed to. I won't insult you by pretending otherwise. His honesty was disarming. No euphemisms, no attempts to sugarcoat the reality of who he was. You know what they call you, I said quietly. The Korean mob boss who took his father's local operation and turned it into an empire. Does that frighten you? It should, I admitted. But right now, I'm more frightened of going back to a life where I slowly disappear. Jinho studied me for a long moment before standing. Come with me. I want to show you something. He led me through a hidden door in his office into what appeared to be a private apartment. Beautifully appointed but clearly designed for function more than show. The kitchen, though, stopped me in my tracks. It was chef's paradise, professional-grade everything, organized with military precision, with a central island that could comfortably fit 6 people working simultaneously. I had this installed 2 years ago, Jinho explained. I find cooking meditative, a connection to my heritage that business meetings and balance sheets can't provide. I ran my hand along the marble countertop, speechless. Marcus had complained when I wanted to upgrade our apartment's basic electric stove to gas. Use it, Jinho said, whenever you want. Create here, think here, breathe here. He paused. There's a guest suite through that door with its own bathroom and entrance. It's yours for as long as you need it. No expectations. No pressure. I turned to him, suspicion warring with gratitude. Why are you doing this? Because I recognized something in you the moment we collided, he said, his voice low and intense. Something valuable. Something worth protecting while it heals and grows stronger. And after it's stronger? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Then you'll make your own choices from a position of power rather than desperation. And whatever you choose, to accept my help with your restaurant, to explore what's between us, or to walk away entirely, it will be because you want to, not because you need to. The distinction want versus need hit me like a physical blow. How long had it been since I'd made a choice based purely on desire rather than necessity or obligation? I don't know what to say, I admitted. Say nothing, Jinho replied. Cook something. Reclaim your space. Start breathing again. He moved toward the door. I have meetings until evening. The kitchen is stocked. Make yourself at home. After he left, I stood alone in that gleaming kitchen, overwhelmed by possibilities. Then I opened the refrigerator, perfectly organized, stocked with ingredients both familiar and exotic. My fingers itched. My mind raced with combinations, techniques, flavors. For the first time in years, I cooked without constraints, without calculating calories or adjusting spices to please someone else's palate. I cooked like my grandmother had taught me, with feeling, with history, with love and rage and hope all mingled together in the steam rising from pots. Hours later, Jinho returned to find his kitchen transformed. Dishes lined the counter, my heritage and his in conversation on plates. Gumbo with gochujang, banchan with Creole seasoning, kimchi-infused etouffee. He stood in the doorway, taking it all in, his expression unreadable. I got carried away, I said, suddenly self-conscious. I'll clean everything. It's beautiful, he interrupted, his voice hushed, like seeing 2 languages finding common ground. He approached slowly, as if giving me time to retreat if I wished. When I didn't, he stopped beside me, his shoulder nearly touching mine as he surveyed the food. May I? He asked, gesturing to the dishes. I nodded, my heart racing as he tasted each creation thoughtfully, his expressions shifting from surprise to appreciation to something deeper I couldn't quite name. This, he said finally, looking at me with intensity that made my breath catch. This is what I saw in you last night. This courage to bring worlds together without diminishing either. No one had ever described my cooking, or me, with such perception, such respect, such understanding. Your husband, Jinho continued, his voice hardening slightly. What did he think of your food? Too spicy, I said quietly. Too bold. Too much. Jinho's jaw tightened momentarily. He was wrong. You are exactly enough. Something broke loose inside me then, a dam holding back years of doubt and diminishment. I turned away, not wanting him to see the tears that suddenly threatened. His hand, warm and steady, came to rest lightly on my shoulder. Not demanding, not presuming, just present. Zara, he said softly, you don't have to hide your pain here. Not from me. I turned back, not caring any more about the tears streaming down my face. I don't know how to be this person anymore. The one who creates without apology. The one who takes up space. He took that from me so gradually I didn't even notice until it was gone. Jinho's eyes darkened. Then we take it back. Starting now. We. If you'll allow me to help, he clarified. The choice is yours. Always yours. I looked at this man, powerful, dangerous, and yet standing in my presence with a respect Marcus had never shown me even on our best day. And I made a choice that was entirely about want, not need. Help me, I said. Help me remember who I was before I forgot. The next 2 weeks were a revelation. Jinho arranged for security to accompany me to collect my belongings from the apartment while Marcus was at work. His lawyers began drafting divorce papers that protected me far better than I could have managed on my own. And through it all, he never pressured me, never rushed me, never made me feel that his assistance came with expectations. We fell into an unexpected rhythm. Mornings, I would cook in his kitchen while he handled business calls. Afternoons, he would show me parts of Atlanta I'd never seen, Korean markets where shopkeepers greeted him with respect tinged with fear, art galleries where he introduced me as a chef whose work rivals anything on these walls, restaurants where he encouraged me to analyze techniques and flavors. Evenings, we would talk, really talk, about our childhoods, mine in Louisiana with a grandmother who taught me to cook by feeling rather than measurement. His in Seoul before his family relocated to Atlanta when he was 10. About our dreams, my restaurant, his desire to legitimize more of his family's businesses. About our scars, my gradual diminishment in my marriage, his complicated relationship with the legacy his father left him. He told me things I suspected few people knew. How he'd fought against taking over the family business, wanting instead to pursue art. How his father's murder when Jinho was 25 had forced his hand. How he'd spent the last decade walking a tightrope between the old world of his father's connections and the new world he was trying to build. I told him things I'd never admitted aloud. How I'd started to believe Marcus's assessment of my worth. How I'd given up applying to chef positions because rejection hurt less if you never tried. How I'd almost stopped cooking entirely at one point because the joy had been criticized out of me. Each revelation was a thread connecting us, weaving something I wasn't ready to name but couldn't deny feeling. The turning point came when Marcus showed up at Park Enterprises, somehow having discovered where I was staying. Jinho's security stopped him in the lobby, but not before he created a scene, demanding to see his wife. I watched it unfold on security monitors, my hands shaking as Jinho calmly asked if I wanted to speak with him. No, I said firmly. I have nothing to say that my lawyers won't communicate better. Jinho nodded, unsurprised by my decision. Then he will not reach you. The simple certainty of that statement, or not a threat, just a fact, made something inside me settle. For the first time, I fully understood the power of Jinho's position. With a single nod to security, Marcus was escorted out, his medical prestige meaningless against Jinho's authority. That night, standing in the kitchen where I'd begun to find myself again, I turned to Jinho with newfound clarity. I want to kiss you, I said plainly. I've wanted to since that first night at the gallery. But I need you to understand something first. He waited, his dark eyes intent on mine. I'm not looking for another man to define me, I continued. I'm not trading one controller for another. If whatever this is between us continues, it has to be as equals. Different kinds of power, maybe, but equal respect. Jinho stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, but still not touching me. In my world, he said quietly, respect is everything. More than money, more than power. I would never disrespect you by trying to make you less than you are. His hand came up, hovering near my cheek but not making contact. May I? The request, the simple act of asking permission, nearly undid me after years of having my boundaries slowly eroded. I nodded, and his palm cupped my face with a gentleness that belied the strength I knew it contained. You are extraordinary, Zara Williams, he murmured. I knew it the moment you didn't flinch when I told you who I really was. I don't want to control you. I want to witness you becoming everything you're meant to be. When our lips finally met, it wasn't the desperate clash of attraction I'd expected. It was something deeper, an acknowledgement, a promise, the beginning of a conversation our bodies would continue long after words failed. That night changed everything. Not just because Jin-ho and I became lovers, though the physical connection between us was more intense than anything I'd experienced before, but because for the first time, I understood that desire could be reciprocal, mutual, equal. That pleasure could be given and received without keeping score. That vulnerability could be strength rather than weakness. In the weeks that followed, Jin-ho introduced me to his world more fully. I met his closest associates, men and women who operated in the gray spaces between legitimate business and organized crime. I learned about the complex network of relationships that governed his operations, the delicate balance of tradition and innovation he maintained. And yes, I witnessed the darker aspects of his life, the security measures that went beyond paranoia into necessity, the swift retribution against those who broke his trust, the calculated violence that was sometimes required to maintain order. But I also saw the man beneath the reputation. The one who practiced calligraphy for hours to maintain a connection to his heritage. The one who funded scholarships for Korean American youth anonymously. The one who treated every member of his staff, from executive to janitor, with the same measured respect. Not all of his world welcomed me. His mother, a formidable woman who had returned to Korea after his father's death, made her disapproval clear during video calls. Some of his older associates regarded me with thinly veiled suspicion or outright racism. And Marcus, served with divorce papers, began a campaign of harassment that only ceased when Jin-ho's men paid him a visit that I chose not to ask details about. Through it all, Jin-ho remained my anchor, not by controlling me or sheltering me, but by giving me space to find my own strength while standing beside me when I needed support. And I found myself doing the same for him, teaching him about my culture, helping him navigate American social situations where his intensity sometimes created barriers, giving him a space where he could just be Jin-ho, not the intimidating figure others feared. The restaurant happened almost organically. Jin-ho owned a building in Midtown with a vacant first-floor space. When he showed it to me, just to consider possibilities, I knew immediately it was perfect. The right size, the right location, the right feel. This could work, I said, already envisioning the layout, the kitchen, the flow. It's yours if you want it, Jin-ho replied simply. No strings. A business arrangement separate from our personal relationship. Your vision, your rules. I'll be the investor, nothing more. Partners, I countered. Not just financial. I want your input, your perspective. This should reflect both of us, both cultures, both visions. The smile that spread across his face, genuine, unguarded, made my heart race. Partners, he agreed. We sealed the deal with a kiss that led to christening what would become the restaurant office in a way that definitely violated several building codes. The real test came 3 months later, at the soft opening of Fusion, a name that reflected both our culinary approach and the merging of our lives. Jin-ho's associates mingled with food critics and local celebrities. My family, initially wary of my relationship with Jin-ho, had gradually warmed to him after seeing how he treated me and experiencing his unfailing respect. Even Jin-ho's mother had flown in from Seoul, her disapproval softening somewhat after tasting my food and witnessing her son's happiness. She pulled me aside during the event, her English heavily accented but clear. You are not what I expected for my son, she said bluntly, but perhaps you are what he needs. Someone who sees him, not just his position. Coming from her, it was high praise indeed. The evening was perfect until it wasn't. Until arrival of Jin-ho's a younger, more volatile Korean gang leader named Sung decided the opening was the perfect opportunity to make a statement. The first indication something was wrong came when Jin-ho's security began moving with increased alertness. Jin-ho himself was across the room when his head of security approached me directly, something that never happened unless protocols had changed. Mrs. Park, he said quietly, using the honorific Jin-ho's organization had adopted for me despite our unmarried status. We need to move you to the back immediately. Before I could respond, The front windows of the restaurant exploded inward. Screams, breaking glass. The controlled chaos of Jinho's security evacuating guests while neutralizing the threat. I caught a glimpse of Jinho across the room, his face transformed by a cold fury I'd never seen before, barking orders as his men formed a protective barrier around the remaining guests. Our eyes met briefly before his security hustled me through the kitchen and into a panic room I hadn't even known existed behind the walk-in freezer. The next hour was the longest of my life, locked in that secure room with surveillance monitors showing the aftermath. Ambulances, police, Jinho speaking calmly to authorities, his public persona perfectly in place despite the rage I knew must be boiling beneath the surface. When the door finally opened, Jinho stood there, his suit immaculate despite the chaos, his expression unreadable until his eyes found mine. Then the mask slipped, revealing relief so profound it was almost painful to witness. "You're safe," he said, the word somewhere between a statement and a prayer. "I'm fine," I assured him, though my hands wouldn't stop shaking. "What happened?" "Who?" "Sung," he replied, his voice hardening. "Making a point, testing boundaries." He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "He will never do so again." The certainty in his voice sent a chill down my spine. This was the side of Jinho I knew existed but rarely saw, the ruthless leader who maintained order through fear when necessary. "What are you going to do?" I asked quietly. Jinho took my hands, his thumbs stroking over my trembling fingers. "What is necessary to ensure your safety? To ensure this never happens again." "Jinho, he targeted you, Zara," he interrupted, his control slipping for the first time since I'd known him. "Not me, not my businesses. You, because he knew." He took a breath, steadying himself. "Because he knew you are the one thing I cannot lose." The raw vulnerability in his voice silenced any protests I might have made. This was who he was, a man who protected what he loved with every resource at his disposal. A man whose world operated by different rules than those I'd grown up with. And I had to decide once and for all if I could accept that. 3 days later, Sung disappeared. His operation was absorbed into Jinho's network with minimal disruption. His lieutenants swore loyalty or met similar fates. And the message rippled through Atlanta's underworld. Jinho Park's woman was untouchable. His vengeance, should you target her, would be swift and absolute. I never asked for details. Jinho never offered them. But that night, after everything was settled, he came to me with uncharacteristic hesitation. "If you want to leave," he said quietly, "I would understand. What happened at the restaurant, what happened after, it's a reality of my world I've tried to shield you from. But now you've seen it. Now you know what loving me means. Loving me." The words hung between us, the first acknowledgement of the depth of feeling that had grown between us over the past months. I studied this complicated man who had helped me reclaim myself while showing me a world I never could have imagined. This man who moved between legitimate business and organized crime with the same careful precision he applied to his calligraphy. This man who had never once made me feel less than his equal, even when our powers took different forms. "I knew who you were from the beginning," I said finally. "I chose you with open eyes." "And now?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "Now that you've seen the consequences?" I reached for him, pulling him close. "Now I choose you again. Not despite who you are, but because of it. Because you protect what matters to you. Because you respect boundaries. Because you see me, really see me, and still want me by your side." The tension drained from his body as he gathered me in his arms. "I love you," he said against my hair. "I have since that first night. Since you stood in my kitchen creating something beautiful from the collision of our worlds." "I love you too," I replied, the words both terrifying and freeing. "Enough to accept all of you, the businessman, the son, the protector, the avenger. All of it." Jinho pulled back enough to meet my eyes, his gaze intense. "Marry me, Zara Williams. Not because you need my protection or resources. Not because it's expected. But because we're better together than apart." Because what we're building, this fusion of our lives, deserves the foundation of a true partnership. The proposal was quintessentially Jin-ho, straightforward, honest, centered on mutual strength rather than traditional romance. And my answer was equally clear. Yes, I said simply. Yes to all of it. 6 months later, we were married in a ceremony that honored both our traditions. His Korean heritage and my Creole roots intertwined in every aspect, from the food to the music to the vows we exchanged. Jin-ho's mother stood beside him, her initial reservations replaced by cautious approval. My family surrounded me, finally understanding that this unexpected path had led me not to danger but to my true self. The divorce papers from Marcus had been finalized months earlier, delivered with a note of congratulations on the success of fusion and an apology I never expected but appreciated nonetheless. Whatever Jin-ho's men had said to him had clearly made an impression that went beyond mere intimidation. 1 year into our marriage, fusion had expanded to 3 locations across Atlanta. Jin-ho had gradually shifted more of his operations into legitimate businesses, though the power structure that had protected his family for generations remained intact. And I had finally found the balance I'd always sought, between ambition and contentment, between independence and partnership, between honoring my roots and creating something new. When I discovered I was pregnant with twins, Jin-ho's reaction cemented what I already knew, that beneath the calculated exterior of the Korean Mafia boss was a man capable of profound love, unshakable loyalty, and genuine partnership. As I watch him now, teaching our daughter to form Korean characters while our son sleeps against his chest, I think about the unexpected journey that brought me here, how a request for an open marriage led me not to brokenness but to wholeness, how a chance collision with a dangerous man helped me reclaim the strength I'd lost. And I breathed deeply, freely, without constraint, finally, completely myself. If you enjoyed Zara and Jin-ho's story of finding love across cultural boundaries, remember that sometimes our greatest transformations come from our deepest pain. Sometimes we have to lose what we thought we wanted to find what we truly deserve. And sometimes the most unexpected paths lead us exactly where we're meant to be.